this is the one course that I ever tried to get someone to open so that I could get in. I mean, it's the only time I've ever done that. So it's really cool, and so I'm really looking forward to. I consider him a mentor in terms of what he's done, and so without further ado, Tim, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Charles. I appreciate it. That course isn't available anymore. But once in a while, I get somebody emailing me asking for it. So it's funny, and somehow they find their way to me. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to talk about how we do podcasts as a business and how we make money with it, and answer any questions. You can ask me anything. You can ask me about how much money I make. You can ask me how much money we made last week, last year, whatever. I am an open book, so I'm very transparent about our business. There's no secrets here. It's just stuff you don't know yet. So whatever you want to ask and your audience wants to ask me, I'm happy to answer the question.
No, that's fantastic. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about trader income or trader interviews, and then kind of how you got started, and then we'll kind of dive into some nuts and bolts.
Sure. So I was and I still am in some way, a Los Angeles police officer back in '98, and I was trading the markets before kind of day trading was even a term. So my shift at night was at 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. I was single, wasn't married, didn't have any kids at the time, so I didn't really have to sleep that much. So I would trade stocks from 6 a.m. in the morning until 1 in the afternoon, and then I'd go chase bad guys from 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. And that's what I did all day, every day, Monday through Friday. And I slept in on the weekends a little bit. And I went to look for a website or a convention or some way that I could go find other traders to talk to, because there wasn't a whole lot out there. I mean, there wasn't even started. And so there wasn't a convention, so I started a convention. And shortly thereafter that, I started the site Trader Interviews, because I was interviewing traders about all kinds of things informally at these conventions. I'd talk to them in the hallways about how they found good stocks to trade and what they were doing. And I thought, if I brought a recorder with me one of these days, I bet somebody else would be interested in this stuff too, because this is good stuff. I'm hearing from these guys that make money in the markets. And so Trader Interviews was born initially as a free podcast. Well, it wasn't even a podcast then. It was just as a free MP. I think I streamed it in like Windows Audio, Real Player. I mean, it was a total nightmare to get audio online. You had to find, it was like $6,000 a month for a gig of space on some server somewhere. It was just a total nightmare. All that's gotten so much easier, obviously, but this is pre-iTunes, pre-any of that. And so my big thing was, look, I'm just going to put these audios online. People can download them, and I'll collect email addresses, and someday down the road, I will sell something. It'll be, I'll sell podcasts, I'll sell a course. I don't know, what I will sell, but I'm going to monetize this some way because, as a trader, you're already kind of a capitalist pig in it for the money. And so my feeling has always been, if it's worth doing, and, if you enjoy it and it's worth the work, then you should profit from that. That's just always my thing. Now, I give away a lot of free stuff too, but I'm kind of averse to free. I think most people give away too much free stuff before they start to sell something. And so my message to podcasters, and I'll shut up here in a second and let you jump in, but my message to podcasters is always sell earlier than sooner. Even if it's just you take the best interview you've got or your best show and you don't put that into your podcast feed and you sell that. And even if you sell it $5, just put something on your website to sell, and so you can start testing and start making some money and actually see some money going into your PayPal account. There's nothing like deposits into a PayPal account to get you motivated to do more.
Now, I think that's an interesting place to start, and that's counter, I think, to what I think most of us hear and probably even espouse. Let's kind of talk about that a little bit. Yeah, and I got some feedback. Dr. Keith says, "Yep, that's a fact. That's right on." So talk about the mindset for that a little bit, Tim. You monetize early, and I guess break that down a little bit for us.
Mindset of selling content, is that what you're asking?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Why would you say to do it early in the process rather than later?
Especially podcast. And bloggers and podcasters, for some reason, have this idea that I need to give away the farm. I need to give away so much stuff that eventually people, when I do go sell something, people will be, they'll think, wow, I've gotten so much free stuff. Their paid stuff must just be unbelievable. And you know what happens? People say, you know what? Their free stuff is so good, I'm not buying anything. That's what ends up happening. So I don't hear anybody saying this either. It drives me crazy. I get to conferences, and I'm in a room and people are like, I'm going to give content away for 2 years, stand up and just pound my fists going, you cannot do that. So I see this all the time where people give away a lot of free stuff. And I'm not saying free stuff is bad. There's ways to do it. We could talk about that. But what happens is that they wait too long and they do build an audience. People get so used to getting stuff for free that they just don't pay for anything, no matter how great your paid stuff is. But if you set the stage early on, and even if you have something for sale on your site that is an ebook or theoretically it should be one of the things you hope to sell later. So if that's a podcast, if you want to do a premium podcast and sell a membership site that is a podcast, then you should have one podcast for sale. And you can set it up, with eJunkie or some of these other ones that you do with, or you just set up just a PayPal buy cart. That's the easiest thing to probably set up is just a buy button with PayPal. And when you set that standard immediately, the moment somebody comes to your website, they see, oh, there's some free stuff here, and they have something for sale. Okay, this person makes money selling content. It's in their mind that, hey, I'm going to get some free stuff, but there are some things to sell here. There's some things to buy. And so that mindset is already there. They don't have to switch up later. And I hear it time and time again where people, they give away a ton of free stuff for a year, building their audience, and they think, okay, I have enough people now that I can sell something. And boom, all of a sudden their blog comments are full of hate mail from people going, I thought you were a nice guy. I thought you weren't going to sell me anything. And you're going to get that anyway when you have that. You know what you do to those comments? You delete them. Nobody comes into your house and tells you what you can do with your site. That's ridiculous. So you can have a conversation with those people too and explain why you're selling something. And look, I'm here to help people too, but this is a business. The ice cream store does not open for a year and give away free ice cream and then start to sell ice cream a year from now once they got enough people coming in for free ice cream. Nobody else does that. So I'm not sure where this idea comes from that bloggers and podcasters have to do that too. So that is a long way to say have something for sale from the beginning. Then you have that mindset and your audience understands that that's the mindset from the get-go.
Yeah, and so now, so where do you develop the incentive to kind of get people to opt in? Because I'm guessing you're still going to kind of give them a little something to kind of get them into your marketing funnel. But you're
Yes.
saying that once you get them into the marketing funnel, you want to start letting them know that this is not going to be, you're not going to be Santa Claus for the rest of the time.
Right. Absolutely. And here's how you do that. You set up something where you give away something to get them to opt in. That's very common, right? You give away an ebook, you give away a report. And by the way, it doesn't have to be an ebook. It can be a one-page something. I've had plenty of opt-in sites where I give away 6 things you need to do now to accomplish X, and it's a single page. And I say it's a one-page cheat sheet. Cheat sheet. I don't know where that word. I love the word cheat sheet, and so does everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a one-page cheat sheet, you have no excuse. You don't have to wait to have a 20-page ebook or a 50-page ebook to give something away. Okay, so that's the first thing. Give away a one-page cheat sheet with 10 items on how to accomplish X, whatever it is in your industry. That's your carrot to get them to opt in. When they opt into our site at Trader Interviews, which is a paid podcast, the first email says, hey, welcome to our email newsletter. You're going to get some great information here about how to trade the markets. But guess what? Once in a while, we are also going to ask if you want to buy something. Now, I kind of make light of it in the email. I say, look, if grandma's apple pie and America and capitalism isn't your thing and you're more of a communist, there's the unsubscribe button. And I'm very serious about that. If they are offended that I'm going to try to sell them something a week from now or 2 weeks from now and they don't like that, they can leave. And I get very few unsubscribes. I'm sure I get a couple that say, who is this guy? What does he think? But for the most part, I've set the tone. People understand that I'm going to give them some stuff to learn, but at the end of the day, too, I'm going to ask if they want to buy something. And if that offends them, they're welcome to unsubscribe right then and there. So my first email to them is, do you want to unsubscribe? I mean, essentially that's what it is. But I've also set the tone for what they're going to get from me. The expectation is there. So when they do get that first email, which I suggest is no later than about email 4 or 5, when they get that email, it's not a surprise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the first email is welcome. After they, I am all double opt-in. I'm a big believer in double opt-in email because I use kind of a modified double opt-in where when they click the confirmation link, it takes them to the site that gives them the content they asked for. So they're opting in and getting the content at the same time. And my feeling is if they can't even, muster the strength to get in there and get the free thing that I offered, then I don't really want them on the list anyway. So big believer in double opt-in. And then I give them the free thing that they agreed to get when they opted in, maybe an article or two, and then by email 4, I've already tried to do the soft sell about becoming a member and talking about why I think they should become a member.
Yeah, now, I'm hearing a lot, and maybe it has to do with the influence of social media. People are talking about ratios, right? They're talking about the ratio between how many times you can actually give, what's considered to be valuable content without asking versus when you actually ask somebody for money. Now, do you actually work on some of those ratios, or do you just kind of assume that when there's enough to sell that you sell?
Yeah, that's interesting. For as much of a data-driven guy that I am, and I look at the numbers on open rates and click rates and everything, I kind of fly by the seat of my pants when it comes to selling versus content. And I guess I just have a feeling like I have a gut feel for how much is too much free and how much is too much pounding. I've opted into websites where even I am like, man, this guy's hammering me, and I opted in an hour ago, right? And I've gotten 3 emails a day since then. That's too much. I mean, we all have a feeling about what is too much. And so you don't want to go beyond what is your comfort level and your personality. But for most people, that comfort level is too much free, and you need to push it a little bit. You need to get out of your comfort level a little bit and ask for the sale a little more. I think if most people err on the side of not doing that.
Right. No, I think you're right on that. And so when you do that, let's talk about that first time. Right? The first time you're going to ask, first they've opted in, and this is going to be the first email, whether it's a broadcast email or whether it's a follow-up email. How do you approach the subject? Are you talking about a straight, direct marketing message? Hey, here's how you're going to benefit from this. Or are you trying to softly break them into this sale for the first time?
Yeah, good question. So if we talk about email number 4 being the email where you're kind of going to open the door to the store, right? So email number 4 is usually a mention of a free webinar or something that I'm going to be doing, saying you're going to get some, because I love webinars as a selling tool. I think it's fantastic, and you do too, obviously, because we're here on a webinar. But email 4 is the, hey, I'm going to do a webinar, and my webinar to kind of open the door is this. It's called 20 Habits of Wealthy Traders. And I use that as a way to give good information, but it's an opening to the sales pitch as well. So if I'm going to give you kind of a general rule, and this may differ from industry to industry. The industries where they're about making money or small business, obviously that's easier to open that sales door than if you have like a pottery podcast or something along those lines, which is tougher, a little bit tougher to make money, but you can definitely do it. So email number 4 is sign up for this webinar. It's going to be some great information. I'm also going to tell you about this great product I have that I think might be of interest to you. So I set them up, and I'm very clear with expectations. I'm going to give you some good information and some educational stuff, but I'm also going to pitch you on this webinar. You don't want to, I don't know if this is the right word, pussyfoot around about it, right? You don't want to kind of soft step into that. Tell them what to expect. You'd be surprised how open people are to it if you just set the expectations every step of the way.
Yeah, because I've heard 2 schools of thought on that. I've heard 2 schools one school that you don't necessarily want to tell people everything, and you want to get them on there, and then other people have said pretty much what you say. So obviously you're erring to the side of, I want to let people know there's going to be some selling on this webinar rather
Yeah.
than to just get them on the call.
And here's why. Because I'd rather have 50 people on the webinar who know I'm going to try to sell them something than 200 that don't. Because, in this era where we're all about followers and how many clicks did I get and how many, how much people love me, I don't give a crap about any of that. I care about how many sales I make at the end of the day. And maybe that sounds harsh. And Charles, I don't want to come off like just complete jerk, right?
No, it is what it is, right? Yeah.
But, I am about getting people on my list who are buyers. This goes back to you've got to change the mindset from how many people are on your email list. I don't care how many people are on my email list. I care about, are they effective? I care so little about the total number on my email list that every 30 days, if you haven't clicked on a link or opened one of my emails, I delete you from the list.
Right.
I don't
Right.
care if I have 20,000 people on my list. I want 500 people that are so into what I've got that almost every time I send them something, they take action. That's the kind of list I want. Pure numbers mean nothing to me. Twitter followers mean nothing to me. It's how many deposits are going into my PayPal account at the end of the day. And please keep in mind too, for your audience, I don't want to seem like I'm some guy that I'm here to sell you something and that's it. The free stuff I give away is good stuff. I mean, it's helpful stuff. But it's all toward the end. I mean, I'm a business person, and so it's all done in a fashion that leads to the sale. And you're not going to convert 100%, of course, but I'd rather set the expectations, and then when I do get to the pitch on the webinar, you've got buyers on the line, not just people that are there for freebie stuff.
Yeah, I'm getting feedback. Friend of mine, Deborah, says you're being real. That's cool. My other friend Keith is saying freebie seekers don't pay the bills, and that's
true.
I mean,
it's so true. I mean, I get people all the time. Hey, I got 100,000 people on my, that follow me on Twitter. I get 60 blog comments. Cool. How much did you make last month? Oh, I made about $12 in AdSense. Well, I'll take money over love any day. Don't tell my wife. She's in the other room. She would kill me if she heard me say that. I think she's looking this way now. She's like, what's going on here? But it's true when it comes, I'm not concerned about followers. I'd rather have 12 that like what I'm doing enough to invest in what I'm offering than 100 people that just like me because I give free stuff away.
I know one of the things that when you say that, and I've looked at trader interviews a couple of times, what do you do to continue to provide, the kind of value where people are going to continue to buy, so that what you have in trader interviews, or whatever the niche is, right? If somebody decides you're going to do a niche, it becomes a business rather than, sort of a standalone thing that made money at one time and then doesn't make any money after a certain period of time.
Yeah, and I think that's where it comes back into the idea that you need to build an audience before you sell something. And I would say you could start and launch a site tonight and have 0 people subscribing to your podcast and 0 people on your email list. I want to see that buy now button in the corner. You may not sell a thing for a while, but it's that expectation and it's that idea that you want to give everybody coming to the site and that is signing up for your list that it's available, and this is the kind of business that you're in and the kind of website you're in. Because, and this all comes from the fact that, look, I tried the AdSense thing. I tried to go out and get a local advertiser to spend $250 to have a banner on my site. And it's just, it's never going to pay the bills enough for the 99% of website owners out there. They will never have enough traffic to make the kind of money that Huffington Post does or the New York Times does. It's just impossible for us to compete that way. So let's not compete on advertising and AdSense. Get those ads off your site. If you're making less than about $1,000 a month on AdSense, get them off your site. You don't need them. It's going to detract from what you really want to do, which is sell your own product. Mm-hmm. And so I guess the question, I'm sorry, Charles, I should go back. So the question was, when do you kind of sell? Like, when do you how do you know you have enough people to sell? Is that kind of
I think the question is, you want a business. So, okay, so you sell a product and you've sold that product in May of 2012. Well, okay, now let's say it's October of 2014 and you've had a number of those people buy already, right? They're still
Yeah.
on your list. What do you do to then create something else,
Right.
that would be worthy of them spending more with you in that business?
Yeah, good question. So with trader interviews, it's tough because we did a bunch of testing, and in the trading space, there's almost everything out in the trading space is purchased monthly. It's a data feed monthly. It's a trading room where you're in there during the market hours. It's a monthly charge of 99
Right,
bucks.
right.
So I wanted to do something totally different. I said, I personally don't like to have a lot of monthly charges on my trading stuff. So I said, what if we tried a lifetime membership? Let's come up with some outrageous price and say, you pay this, you get every podcast we ever do for life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the first question is, all right, well, are you healthy? What happens if you get hit by a bus tomorrow?
Yeah.
And it's true, but I think, once we didn't do this until we had about 100 podcast interviews in the can, in the library. So at the end of the day, it's like, they realize I'm getting a lot of value for what's already in the library. If I am a member for a couple of years and the site goes on for a couple of years, I'm going to get my value out of it. And am I realistically going to be listening to this podcast when I'm 95 years old, if I'm 30 now? Probably not, right? So who's going to forget about the subscription first, me or them? But the idea that they didn't have to worry about another monthly charge, that was huge. Now the downside of that was, once you sell a lifetime membership to your site, where do you go from
That's
there?
it.
Right?
That's
They got a lifetime membership to the site. So the reason we did that is this. It was all very data-driven. For 6 months, we tested a monthly membership. And for another it took time. It takes time, but it's worth doing. For the next 6 months, we tested a quarterly membership and an annual together. And then after about 9 months, so maybe it wasn't a total of 6 each, it was a kind of a combination of things, we tested the lifetime membership. When we did the monthly membership, we got the most members as monthly members. But they dropped off after about
They drop
4
off.
months.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yep.
So I think our monthly membership was like 40 bucks. And we kept people an average of 4 months. And in the trading space, that's not unusual. I mean, it's crazy. You'd think that other, site memberships. I know a guy that does a wakeboarding site that he's got members that are like 2 years, and his average is crazy because it's 10 bucks a month. Or it's 9 bucks a month. It's almost like one of those things you see on your credit card that you don't even bother looking into. I'm like, all right, maybe I'll go wakeboarding and I'll need that again at some point. But
Right.
so at 4 months, at 40 bucks, that's $160, right? The lifetime value of our customer was about 160 bucks. We sell a lifetime membership for $495. So even if they never buy a thing from us again, we made almost 3 times as much money selling a lifetime membership at 500 bucks than we did doing a monthly membership at $40. So
Right.
it was completely a dollars and cents thing. You have to take into account the people that are going to stick with you, how long they're going to stick, and can you make more money by doing a lifetime membership.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we did the lifetime membership to the podcast. There's certainly still other products we can do. We can come up with a course, a trading course. We make a lot of money with affiliate marketing where we send out emails for other trading products that people we trust in the industry. So there's a lot of different ways you can make money even after you sell a lifetime membership to your site. A lifetime membership is something that probably, if there is something you need to wait a while for, that's probably it. Because you do have to build up a library of content so that they feel like, okay, if Tim gets hit by a bus tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
I still have enough value in the library that 500 bucks was worth it. And I think that's how most people look at it.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like, Tim, you have to, and then let's go back a little bit to that period of time. At what point did you say, okay, I'm going to commit to trader interviews? Because I think you alluded to a little while ago that, I mean, at some point you decide, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do in spite of all the other really cool things I could do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you sort of have to. Would you say that this is something that you got to kind of commit to if you're going to sell content whether it's interview content or whatever the case is?
Yeah, it does initially because you don't have a lot of content built up there and people expect it a little more frequently than once a month. That's all we promise to our members. We've got about 100 interviews in the can, in the library, that are evergreen, that are good trading interviews that you can listen to. It would take probably 2 weeks, 24 hours a day of listening to listen to all those interviews. But now I only have to do about one a month. And so it's not that much commitment anymore after you get going. So when you first start, you may have to do one a week to get that library built up. And maybe just sell a monthly membership right now, or even just sell individual podcasts with PayPal buy now buttons, or every fourth one is free, or half of it is free. You got to pay to get the second half of the interview. I mean, there's 6,000 different ways you can slice it and dice it. And I would say try all of them.
Right.
Yeah, so after a while, you have this library built up, and then you don't have to work quite as hard anymore to keep it going.
All right, let's talk a little bit about let's talk about hard dollars. So that I want to give everybody who's on the call and even people who are listening to the archive an idea of what's possible. Now, I understand just from having worked at the Mercantile Exchange that traders probably are going to be at the upper end of the income scale. I understand that, number one. And number two, I also understand that this niche is kind of individual, meaning that these guys want to buy education because it helps them make them better and gives them an edge. That being said, let's talk about the dollars. Yeah,
I'll be the first to admit that I have an easier time selling a $500 product than most people. I'm very lucky in terms of the niche that I'm in. So no question that my numbers don't translate to my mother's site, who she literally sold workbooks for teachers. That's a group that is not going to spend $500 for a membership all the time. So yes, I mean you have to. It's not always apples to apples. So yeah, that's good to mention up front.
So now, in terms of dollars, let's talk about the monthly, talk about the quarterly, and then how did you come up with those numbers? Because I think that's the other thing that's kind of a sticking point. You make a decision about what you're going to ask for content. Some people say they're going to charge $7 for an interview. Other people say 70. So what did you decide on, and how did you come up with the numbers?
So here's how we do it. We sell individual interviews for $25 each. And the reason we make them expensive is because we want them to look at the annual and the lifetime membership and say, wow, if I just got the annual and the lifetime membership, it's a lot cheaper to do it that way than it is to buy individual interviews. I also tell people that you are welcome to buy individual interviews all day long. I will credit you all of that money toward a annual or a lifetime membership if you decide to do it down the road. And I don't put a time frame on it. So technically, somebody could buy enough interviews to get a feel for what we do and then spend $500 in individual interviews, and I flip them over to an annual membership, and they've paid their first year already. So I make it risk-free, essentially, to buy an individual interview to test us out, to see if it's worth becoming a full member. Mm-hmm. The two price points, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Mm-hmm.
The two price points I have right now on the site are an annual membership for $500, $495, $499, I think, and a lifetime membership for $1,500, $1,499. But that's a little deceiving. There's tons of books out there that you can read about pricing and how you get something to look cheap even when it's expensive. And one of those things is you take an expensive product and you make something else outrageously expensive and put it next to it, right? that first thing doesn't look quite as expensive anymore.
Right.
So when we have a $1,500 lifetime membership next to a $499 annual membership, $500 a year doesn't sound all that bad anymore. Plus, the other thing we do, and this is a caveat because we've done this in badly, I think, and we could have done this better. Twice a year, we put the lifetime membership on sale for the 1-year price. So we make the lifetime membership $4.99, and we get flooded with orders.
Uh-huh.
Because for 6 months we built up the idea that a lifetime membership is $1,500.
Right.
And now we're putting it on sale for the 1-year price, and we get a ton of orders, and we make all of our money twice a year. Now the bad thing about that is we have trained our list and pretty much trained everybody that if you wait long enough, you'll get the annual price.
Right, yeah.
It's a problem. But we kind of early on thought, if we sell a handful of lifetime memberships a month and we sell a ton of them when it goes on sale twice a year, we're okay with that. And if somebody comes to me and go, hey, I just bought the lifetime membership for $1,500 last month and now you're doing a sale, I refund their money and give that to them. Because $500 is still a lot of money. We're still making a good profit, and we're okay with that as being a lifetime member. So if one of the mistakes I've made is I think we were too regular, and we did it around July 4th and around Christmas, and people knew about it, and he was on message boards even. Hey, I'm thinking about joining Trader Interviews. What do you think? And just wait a few months. It's going on sale. That would drive me nuts. I wanted to get on there and go, no, we're not. We're not doing this year.
Yeah.
But we do it. So, but we still get enough people, and we still get enough people through our opt-ins and in the funnel that we sell a lot of lifetime memberships at the annual price.
Yeah, right on. I got a question here from Tracy Haynes out of Houston. He wants to know, are you using a particular website? Are you using WordPress? Are you having it built, or how are you managing the content on the site?
Yeah. If we had to start over again, I would use WordPress and Wishlist Member. I think those two together are a pretty darn good fit. And I know the guys from Wishlist Member. I don't get anything for telling you that. I just think they've got a good product. And WordPress is just kind of the de facto website based these days that you can find anybody to help you with, which is great. Unfortunately, we built this site years ago, and we haven't changed it a whole lot because we got it tuned down so well in terms of a funnel. We don't want to mess with any pixel on the damn page for fear that it's going to reduce conversion. So
right.
it's a PHP site. Thankfully, I have a brother who's a software engineer, and I can call him at 11 o'clock at night and say, change this button, and he doesn't beat me up too bad, and he does it.
Right, yeah.
So it is not WordPress, but we use Amember, AMEMBER.com, Amember, to run the membership side of it. And in terms of the podcast itself, we just use iTunes because iTunes, and not many people know this, allows you to have premium podcast feeds in iTunes. So people subscribe to our premium podcast, and what they do is they put the username and password as part of the URL of the subscription of the feed, and it's almost like an individual feed. And so when you put that in, iTunes checks a member's database. Is this person really a member? And if it's yes, they subscribe it, and only one person can be subscribed to that individual feed at one time. So iTunes is great for that too. Not many people know you can do a premium podcast with iTunes.
Now I'm going to go a little technical now. So this particular connection, but does that take place between Amember and iTunes? Is that a plugin you're buying with Amember, or can you do that with all these other membership software such as Wishlist Member, the other thing? Is that something that just worked particularly with Amember?
Yeah, I think anybody can do it now these days. Back when we did it, Amember was one of the only ones that did it. It's an automated email that comes from Amember that tells them what their personal premium podcast feed is that they then go subscribe to in iTunes. So it's an Amember thing. Just iTunes, and now we're getting a little bit beyond my pay grade. This is a question from my brother. But iTunes somehow knows if that username and password is the right one. I think it must ping our database. It's the only way that it would know how to do that. But,
right.
And
yeah.
Then, and then they get subscribed within iTunes. But we also offer it on the site itself, so you can listen to all of the podcasts right there on the site too when you're logged in through Amember on the site.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, when you decide, I noticed that for a while, and this is probably more with when you were doing Interview Income, you did a blog, And I guess this is probably more a question of mine. How many other things do you do? I mean, are you really just trying to get the word out about the podcast and about the audio content, or are you doing all those other things? Are you blogging on a regular basis? Is that part of part of the promotion? If you had to start this today, how would you do some of the promotion and other things that are socially related?
Yeah, and I don't do nearly enough of that, of Twitter and Facebook, and we've tried some of that. But if I had to start today, blogging is certainly the way to do it because you attract attention, you do guest posts, you get Twitter followers, you do a Facebook page. It's easier that way because it's free, and it's just, for most people starting out, they have more time than money. And at some point, you hope to have more money than time. But when you're first starting, you just put in the sweat equity of building the list. Hold on one second, Charles. I got to
Okay.
close this window. The crows are going crazy outside the window. Wait a second.
Oh, man.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah,
So,
I heard him.
Yeah, it was nuts. That was weird. So, yeah, so these days what I do is because I have enough list now that I can use it to trade messages, the best way I continue to grow the list now is I go out and find somebody who has a list in the trading space and say, let's do a kind of a list trade with each other. I don't give them the emails, but I say, I will promote your webinar and you promote my webinar to your list, and we go into an opt-in page and I use, I have them send their traffic to my opt-in page and I email my list about their opt-in page for their webinar, and we grow our list that way. So I kind of siphon off their list and they siphon off mine. And so that's what's working best for us these days. It's just faster. Which when you're starting out, you don't have a list to kind of trade with. So you're kind of forced to kind of do these guerrilla things to, these guerrilla marketing tactics to kind of get this momentum going. It's not easy.
Right.
It's hard, but there are things like a great image in iTunes and things like that that will help you kind of capitalize on another platform like a Facebook or a LinkedIn, and Twitter and things like that. You have to put a lot of sweat equity in the beginning for sure.
Yeah. Now I know that you had and I probably feel the same as you do. You had a particular feeling about, the fact that audio would kind of always be there, and that you could do video, but that you wanted to make sure that you kind of focus on getting audio to people. Do you still feel that way? Because I guess now, and you've probably heard that everybody's saying that you have to be doing video. How do you feel about that in terms of, again, selling the actual content? Is it still audio as a basis, or is it audio and video, or what do you think?
Yeah, audio for me is still the king. Because it's easier to create just with an audio file. But I'm starting to do a little more video because we have charts and things that are visual that people want to see. But in that case, trading is a little bit different. I think for the vast majority of podcasters out there, they don't need to do video. It's a ton of work. And my feeling is always, yeah, you can always do the video where you've got the Skype guy camera on one side and he's on the other. And Andrew from Mixergy.com does a fantastic job of that. But for me, I just listen to his MP3s anyway. So
Right.
If you don't have a lot of time, which I don't, I just stick with the audio because I just think two talking heads, seeing them, it's just not something I really need. And I listen to most of my audio in the car. I listen to it when I'm running. And so I have audio just fits my needs a little bit better. Obviously, if you've got something visual, if you've got a podcast about art and you want to show art, you've got to do video or at least screenshot kind of videos with Camtasia or something like that. So for me, it's audio, and I don't think anybody needs to do video to start out. What I have done to get on YouTube, and again, one of those kind of guerrilla marketing tactics that I used early on to build a list and build a following, was I would take an audio podcast, and then I would almost do it almost like you've ever seen those pop-up videos on VH1,
Right.
where there are comments about the video. So I would literally listen as I'm listening back to the recorded interview. I was doing PowerPoint slides, and I was almost kind of like, peanut gallery commenting on what we were talking about while we were doing the interview. So if we were talking about the stock market, I would say something like, "Isn't it interesting how the stock market has gone crazy lately?" Or just something like that. And then I would take those slides and then put that with the audio and make kind of a video that way. So it was almost like, what am I thinking about this interview is the video part while they're listening to the audio, if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. No, yeah, I totally get it. Um, I got a question here from Marge. Marge is asking, and I know you go on this in particular in interview income, but just maybe run down what you think. If you had to kind of just give somebody 10 minutes to go in the store and to get a mic and to get set up, what would you send them to go get? What would you tell them if they've got 5 minutes, they got to go in and get something? What would you tell them to get? Yeah.
I used to go crazy with this stuff, and I still have in my garage now, though, Electro Voice mics, which are $250 each, what was called a digital hybrid, which connected the caller and my audio, and I was able to split them out. That was $600. You don't need any of that stuff anymore. All you need to do a podcast these days is Skype or one of the other kind of audio calling features. I like Skype because it's ubiquitous. Everybody's got it. It's free. Skype and a program to record the Skype. So even if the other person isn't on Skype, you can still make the phone call through your Skype to their landline or cell phone and hit the record button and record it that way. So you don't need anything other than the laptop or computer itself. Maybe a headset, a good headset, that would be it, that you can have a microphone in. Like you could probably tell there's a little bit of echo because I'm using just the microphone built into my MacBook Pro right now. So if all you had was a laptop, we're talking Skype, and if you have a Mac, I use Wiretap Pro.
Right.
And if you have a PC, I think it's called, oh, come on now. What is it? Let me...
What, to record? Maybe maybe Pamela. You can use Pamela if you're going to record Skype. Pamela works well, and then there's something else called Power Grammo. I know I've used those. Pamela works great, Marge.
Okay, I'm not familiar with either of those, but if those tools are great, I mean, Audacity, I think, even is free now and it has the recording thing.
Right,
so
that's right.
You literally need nothing. It's super cheap to do these days.
Yeah, and now she's asking about things like pop filters, and if you have maybe a particular production quality tip that you were going to do if you were going to create this thing in order to sell.
See, here's the thing, and there are a lot of people out there that, there's some, if you want, now, okay, I would say don't worry about it when you're starting. The audio quality is good enough now with Skype and recording that you don't need to have all that stuff. If you want to go to the next level and you want radio or kind of, high-end audio quality, then you can get the Electro Voice microphone with the pop filter that goes into a Marantz recorder, a digital recorder of some sort. You can get all that, but don't get bogged down in trying to figure out all the combinations of high-end audio equipment to buy. Put out just the Skype and the recorded stuff. You record it as an MP3 or a WAV file, and then edit it in Audacity, which is free, and mix it down to an MP3 file. You don't get bogged down too much in the audio stuff. It's just not that necessary unless maybe you're doing a podcast for high-end audiophiles who are going to notice.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And man, Tim, it's good gracious. I've kept you on 47 minutes, a little longer than I thought. And I've still got questions. Tell me this. Let's talk a little bit about where this model is going now. Clearly, you're still confident that it can still be done because you're still doing it. What do you think is different about when you started in terms of where somebody has to start now in order to break in to develop the authority to start selling content? Where do you think, what do you think the difference would be now?
I think there's certainly a lot of competition out there. So you want to find a niche that you feel like you have some authority in already. And most everybody does. So the niche can be very small. I think, Charles, in Interview Income, I had talked a long time ago about take your niche, slice it in half. Then take whatever that is left and slice it in half again. And then you're just about where you probably need to be in terms of your niche. I mean, you don't want to be so crazy small that your audience is 3 people, but you don't want it real wide either, because the more wide your audience, the tougher it is going to be to sell to that audience. The more niche it is, the less it's kind of available out there in that area, the better time, the easier time you're going to is to sell. So I think, the biggest thing is just not to wait. Don't wait to have something to sell. Do 3 podcast interviews, your first 3 ever. Take one of them and put it up on your site for sale. Put the other 2 for free. Have something for sale right away and build that expectation into what you're already doing. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. It does, really. And again, it still really comes back down to kind of understanding what audiences, what they want. And I guess if you develop, because I don't necessarily think that developing a relationship for the sake of having a relationship is necessarily the thing. I'm guessing you've got to develop the kind of relationship where you understand what it is they need, or how do you process
exactly that? I guess there's this idea that I need to have 1,000 listeners or 1,000 emails before I have the authority to sell something. You have the authority to sell something right now. Don't let anybody tell you don't. If I knew nothing about teaching a parrot how to do talking, and I researched the heck out of it, and I put up a website about it and wrote an ebook from my research, I can sell that now. Don't let anybody tell you you have to wait and get so many Twitter followers and get retweets from good people in the industry until I'm an authority, now I can sell. That's baloney. That is baloney. If you create good stuff, which you can probably do right now, you are an authority now, and don't wait for that. It's going to take a lot of hustle to maybe develop that audience and have that opt-in page on your site and give away a one-page, 6 tips or 10 tips thing, a one-page cheat sheet. Don't use that word. Or use that word, please. Cheat sheet. People love cheat sheets.
Right, yeah.
You do that right away, and don't feel like I'm not good enough yet, or I'm not a big enough name yet to do this. Baloney. Do it right from the beginnings. You are the person who can do this right now, and maybe in some ways you fake it till you make it, but that's okay. If you have some knowledge and your information is good, don't wait. Do it now.
That's awesome. So Tim, tell us about the stuff you're doing right now, and then where folks can kind of take a look at all your stuff.
Yes, right. So here's the capitalist guy saying, I don't want to sell you anything, but I'll tell you about it. This is free anyway. I have a site called After Offers. So at some point down the road, when you're ready to monetize your site, our site helps people monetize their websites. It's free to use. It doesn't cost you a thing. We get paid when you start to get paid. Basically, we put advertisers and your industry and your website together. And the way it works is that when you have an opt-in form, most people's opt-in forms with Aweber or Constant Contact or whatever they are, you sign up your name and email on their site, and it takes you to a confirmation page that says, hey, thanks for joining our email newsletter. Check back soon for great stuff. And we always thought that was a wasted opportunity. So After Offers, what it does, we give you a line of code. You put it on that thank you page, and now your page says, hey, thanks for joining our newsletter. Here are some other things in the industry you might be interested in. And we put stuff on your thank you page that's not competitive to what you do. It's complementary. So if you're doing an art podcast, maybe this would be another a pottery supply house would put an ad on your thank you page, and when they click the box next to that pottery supply house and somebody puts in their name and email and that gets sent out to them, you make $2. And so the idea is to monetize your thank you page the moment somebody signs up for your list, because if you're doing really well, maybe if you're doing really well, maybe 10% of your site, or 10% of your subscribers will buy something for you. For most people, it's like 1%. So we figured out a way we can monetize the other 99% right when people sign up. So that's all. Afteroffers.com. You can check it out. You can also email me through there.
That's fine. That's fantastic. And then if people just kind of want to get a glimpse of what you're doing, they can just go to traderinterviews.com. They can take a look at that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If you want to see how I sell to these people, put in you're going to get an email from me, and I'm going to try and sell you something. I'm telling you right now. But you don't have to buy anything because you're just looking for how I market. So go to traderinterviews.com and sign up for our newsletter. You'll see how I market to you. And if it just gives you some ideas in your own industry how you can market to that, then good stuff.
Wow, man, this has been fantastic, Tim. Thank you doesn't quite cover it, but I'm getting a lot of feedback. This is good content. This has been great. Thank you. Everybody is really liking it. Everybody, did you learn something today? If you learned something, just put a Y in the question box there and just let us know. Yeah, it's really been fantastic, Tim, because I think, again, all of these real solid, practical nuts and bolts are very, 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 very important. And it's all the stuff that, nobody could tell you because, you really just don't know to ask. So,
Yeah.
So
I love talking
you.
about this stuff. I could talk about it all day too. So, and if you've got questions that you don't want to ask now or they come up later, my email address is tim@afteroffers.com. I write back to everybody who writes to me. So if you have a question about an opt-in box or I could bore you to tears about that stuff. I love talking about this stuff. So feel free to send me an email.
That's fantastic. Well, everybody, this has been Tim Borquin of AfterOffers.com as well as TraderInterviews.com. If you're listening by archive, make sure that you are, again, just kind of tuned in. And if you do not have Local Podcast Mogul today, today it is 70% off. So if you haven't picked it up, you'll want to go ahead and pick it up today until midnight Pacific Standard Time. So if you're listening by archive, that's great. So everybody, thank you very much for being here again. Tim, my man, thank you so much for all this fantastic, just fantastic information and practical insight. Let us know what we can do for you, and we'll be happy to do that.
Thanks, Charles. I appreciate it. Thanks for just letting me banter on. I appreciate it.
All right, everybody, have a great night and a pleasant tomorrow. Take care.